All right, we are moving on to item 11.0, which is new business. And I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Garris to lead this conversation.
Thank you. I'd just like for us to have some discussion about executive session and the current placement on the agenda, and see if there's any interest in having two executive sessions, one at the beginning for human resources and a second at the end of the agenda for other items. The problem is, because executive session is placed at the beginning, there's a scheduled time to resume open session, which is usually about an hour. And there are times when we meet for 15 minutes, and we have 45 minutes that could be used to start the meeting earlier, but we can't because our agenda states the meeting starts at 7. But more importantly, there are times when we don't have the opportunity to finish discussions before 7. My suggestion is to leave the first executive session in its current place on the agenda, along with a note that says we will return to open session immediately following executive session, which could be approximately 6:15 or whatever the time may be, according to what Human Resources needs. And the second executive session could be taken up once we've finished all other agenda items. And this executive session would be used for all items other than Human Resources. Lately, we have started changing meeting times to accommodate executive session. But as I read board policy and state law, the meeting time for our regular meetings must be announced at the beginning of the year and can only be changed by majority vote. Per policy, our meetings begin at 7, and I think we should amend policy to reflect our current practice, which is a regularly scheduled meeting time of 6 o'clock. So I didn't know if it was possible to get that on the agenda, if there's any interest for next month. It would save us time and get us out of here a little earlier.
Board, does anyone have any questions for Ms. Garris about her suggestion?
I guess my one question would be, if you look at the just the natural flow of our meetings and how they occur, and especially with the consideration for transparency and such, by placing executive session at the end, obviously this room looks different now than it did, let's say an hour ago. Does that in any way potentially hinder transparency, would be my question. Because if it goes to the end, then my concern would be that somebody would say, well, they just put it at the end because they know everybody's left, and then they just want to come back and vote on those items. So
we would need to be prepared to come out of executive session to take action.
Correct.
So
correct. So that would be my question,
Right.
That's just.
I guess that's left up to the people that come. If they want to see what's going on, they can stay till the end, or they can watch it on YouTube. Or it doesn't have to be at the end. That's why I was having this discussion. It could be, after citizens' participation. And then you finished up the rest of them. But for us to have a set time where, okay, we have an hour and we're going behind closed doors, and then we have to leave regardless of whether we're finished or not and come back out here, that's the problem that I'm facing.
Yeah, and I would agree. I think there are times where I think maybe we've done a little better job here recently of trying to, if we know there's items on it for executive session that could be a little more lengthy, that we're not trying to sandwich them all together and we're just rushing and rushing and rushing. I think there has been some improvement in that. But there are times where we still are kind of rushed, and so you would like to have additional time to flesh that out, to have those discussions. I'm really honestly ambivalent either way. I think, quite frankly, as we're setting the agenda, and by we, I mean, of course, by board policy, Dr. Little and Chair Green, I think that having flexibility in that to allow for more lengthy discussions that may take us through the end of the night, because quite frankly, for staff, these can be very long days. I hate the thought of keeping staff around for things that we can handle as a board that would potentially move those times up, that would move the start time to 6 or whatever it may be. I think we would all maybe agree that, well, I shouldn't say that. I think we would there should be consideration that, that the time allotted for these meetings is very cognizant of the needs of the staff.
And Dr. Guyton, that's something I think you and I have talked about a little bit, is the possibility of maybe as we're looking at the board calendar for the, for next year, because and Ms. Garris and I have talked about this, and we kind of disagree on what time our meetings start, because our board policy says that our regular third Tuesday of the month meeting starts at 7 o'clock. And we always start our public portion of the meeting at 7 o'clock. But we move the start of executive session, the call to order, based on what the executive session agenda looks like. To me, I would like to, and policy says that a majority vote of the board, we can change the meet time, even temporarily. We don't necessarily need to change policy. Maybe we try for a few months, especially if we're heading into the summertime, where we decide, okay, we'll have our public session start at 6, and the board will convene at 5 or 5:15 or 5:30 for executive session earlier. Because I think our ultimate goal is to maybe make these meetings not last until the wee hours of the night, to be, respectful of the staff that's been here, to be we have a lot of teachers that watch our board meetings. Well, they have to get up in the morning, and I want to make sure that the business of the district is being discussed at a time where our stakeholders are able to attend or watch the live stream. And so, maybe a compromise is, let's try that for a couple months. By board vote, let's try starting at 6 o'clock with executive session. I'd rather inconvenience the board than inconvenience the citizens that want to attend. And so, maybe that's something that we can consider, maybe putting on the agenda for maybe our March meeting, where we try that for, change the start time for April and May, especially since we're going to be doing budget. We'll have some lengthy meetings.
And so to be clear, you're saying general session at 6 with executive session starting prior?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, 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 yes. Overriding what's in the policy where we start the general session at 7, schedule it to start at 6, and then back our executive session up to a little bit earlier, so that because the executive session is that's board only, inconvenience us so that the citizens can participate a little bit easier.
But you can't open executive session without convening a public meeting. So the meeting actually starts when executive session, prior to executive session. So like on today's agenda, it says call to order at 6 p.m. That is actually the time the meeting started.
And I think that's a technicality, and you and I have been back and forth about this a lot. To me, it is ceremonial, because we conduct zero business other than calling to order and entering into executive session. We don't do a pledge, we don't do any of the FOIA, we don't do anything other than immediately go into executive session. So I think that is just a technicality, but perhaps we address that, as we're moving forward with some of these policy changes.
But I think maybe, again, start the meeting at 5, move directly in executive session, and then start general session at 6. That way our community and our staff can get home and go to bed at a reasonable hour. I think it's a good idea.
Well, and to that point, I think this kind of addresses both concerns. As a part of the ad hoc committee, this falls within the B policies, and we have received feedback from the School Board Association regarding policy changes. I will admittedly tell you, I have not made it to that portion of the policy recommendations, but just kind of hearing the discussion and taking that into account, that's certainly something our committee can convene about, talk about, and see if we can address maybe both concerns, regarding that.
And I think that would be, I'm excited that y'all are going to be addressing that, but in preparation for this conversation and reading policy, I think that maybe what we'll do as y'all get to it is we hardwire our start time into policy. But policy gives us the flexibility when it's not hardwired
Let's do a
to
trial.
override it with a majority vote.
Yeah, let's do a trial.
So I think maybe we'll put that on the agenda for next month to vote, and then it'll take place in April.
Say that again, just to make sure everybody's clear. We're not voting on that tonight.
No, it's not an action item tonight.
April, if you're voting on it in March,
To
to
take-
do it in April or May, or April or whatever.
Right, as a
version.
trial run, just to see how it works for everybody's schedules and just accessibility and things like that. So, Ms. Garris, are you,
A trial run works for me.
okay, good. All right. Thank you. Any other conversation about that, discussion from anyone at this, I have a crick in my neck from looking this way the whole time. Anybody over here want to say anything about that? No? Okay. All right.